1. Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, the fight for caring about Mother Nature and planet Earth has already been difficult. We believe that as a neutral observer, since this is a value judgment debate, we don't want to backtrack the progress we've already made and make this struggle even more difficult. As I suggested in my point of information, this is uniquely a debate about strategy for climate change and what these activists from a neutral perspective should do. I broadly agree with opening government that people have diverse interests, but so do climate change activists, especially those smaller organic grassroots movements in developing nations where there is scarcity of resources and limited attention and capacity for what to support. For those people who we agree are already helping the environment, when you make the movement, force them or incentivize them to care about other things in as much as in a vacuum that sounds good, makes it significantly harder to make the progress you want for climate change. The path to victory of closing opposition is quite simple. Number one, we're going to talk about the positive comparative of what this strategy should be and what it looks like in terms of what should we highlight, what should we prioritize, and what we should link to. Something our opening missed because broadly they were correct, but they were largely a negative case. And number two, to better engage with side proposition, at best, why this is a bad strategy, and from a neutral lens and perspective, it's going to be worse for the fight for climate change. I'm going to do this by talking about strategic observations of top half, which was kind of deadlocky, in order to be able to bolster, impact, and weigh our positive comparative. Number one, opening government is correct that these people have other proximate interests. If I was raped by my husband in the Middle East, or I'm constantly dodging bullets in Venezuela, or I'm trying to marry the love of my life because I'm a trans queer person in the Philippines, which is largely conservative and patriarchal, you significantly make it quite difficult and hard for them to care about these things. Because of Maslow's hierarchy, these people are already likely to prioritize their own struggles and ultimately make the environment a back burner priority. And that in itself is hard because as climate change, you get less funding, less media attention, and less political capital for that, not just diluting it from what opening opposition had mentioned, but significantly backtracking the progress they've made when you sacrifice the previous specificity and positioning they've already had when you don't have this skewed kind of strategy. Number two, I agree with opening opposition, but their case is kind of negative. I'll be more charitable to opening government than opening opposition and answer the question of what if they do agree, even if opening government didn't fully explain the nuance or extent of prioritise highlighting and linking to these different movements. They basically said that more is merrier and better and these things will be good. And this is something that I believe closing government broadly agrees with. I have three responses to this. A, the impact towards the environmental change, even if it does happen, it's marginal. I question the cost of doing so and the attention because the point in which you have to highlight or prioritize one strategy, you can't do all, right? You're going to have to dedicate some time, some professional experience. That in itself takes away and backtracks the progress you've already made. So even if these people do have a buy-in, at the back of their mind, because of Maslow's hierarchy that I mentioned in my pre-oration, they're probably going to still prioritize their own interests, meaning you get less cents on the dollar going to the environment, which is something that they need in order to be able to make green technology accessible, especially in those parts of the world. B, you deprioritize the environment and make the funding outcome dependent on the journey of these particular people. Case in point, these people are already experiencing lived realities. The point in which they're likely, because of self-defense, to protect and prioritize their own interest, You create a scapegoat of the environmental activists. Sure, we can partner you, but it's all for the media and optics, ladies and gentlemen. In terms of the practicality of that strategy, they're likely to want to lobby for their own respective legislation and fight in the political sphere, in the economic sphere, and in the social sphere for their own causes, as opposed to the environment becomes a back burner. Sure, my friend, go.
Okay, Chair, we think that it is very important to buy from the analysis that we give you. We tell you that the reason why people don't buy within the first place is because most of these policies contradict with their livelihoods and their means of survival.
Yeah, that's exactly the point, right? Like, I don't blame them if trying to dodge bullets and not get raped comes more important as opposed to giving a shit about green technology. That's exactly where the strategy fails, and it's a poor strategy because you try and make them believe that these things are just as important. And maybe in debate land or in a vacuum that's true, but in terms of the practicality of that strategy, you get less support towards the environment, and even at best, you muddle the victory or you muddle the end impact outcome you want at the point in which they have to prioritize, at best, them being the same, or if you want a more marginal delta, the environment more than their struggles. You might question, okay, so what do we then do? What we want on our side, the positive comparative, are two things. One, focusing on the organic grassroots movements of individual startups and experiences, like people who are trying to, with the limited resources they have, make eco bricks in order to build their homes. These things have to be marketed and highlighted more, and on your comparative, those people and those entrepreneurs get less limelight and attention, making it significantly harder for the average person, even if they're not struggling about social issues, to care about their capacity to help with the environment. Number two, proportionally holding large nations and multinational corporations accountable. The point in which you try and muddle the strategy and marry it with these different issues, which we agree are important, scapegoat large companies like ExxonMobil, Shell, Nestle, and Unilever, all these people who use single-use plastics. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to think about what strategy we should do because people, because of scarcity, have limited capacity. We are very proud to stand on side negative. Thank you.